Obstructions are constructions, constructed concepts that if we think of enough, we start to believe. These concepts are man-made. They are constructed by man to instigate the paralysis of fear, or at least justify it. These limiting beliefs, these constructed obstructions, are attempting to justify the paralysis of fear. These limiting beliefs, these constructed obstructions, are attempting to justify the paralysis of fear. Fear is reactionary and fleeting. It passes. An emotion, a signal that my body is holding onto limiting beliefs. I'm the creator of my universe, and there is no better time in my life than now. I just do a page a day in the morning and I light a candle. I write with this red ink because I know it feels quite, I suppose, vulnerable what I'm writing, even though I try not to go into negative thoughts. I always try to make them really uplifting, or as if it's someone guiding me on the page, you know, when I'm writing. But I suppose the symbolism of the red is that it's something raw, something internal, kind of like writing with my own blood. It always sounds so dramatic when I say it, but I don't mean for it to sound dramatic. I think there's something very powerful, and there's like a charged energy in the colour red. So writing in the red ink I find very therapeutic. But yeah, it shouldn't matter. It reminds me of blood. Okay. It literally takes 3 minutes max, and then I read it afterwards. I read it aloud, and today for the first time I filmed myself reading it, and then I listened back to it, which I have found so helpful. Like, it was such a good idea. I'm so glad I did it. I know I've seen other creators online talk about recording voice notes of themselves reading out a similar like writings, and that they found it very helpful. And this was my first time doing it, and it was really interesting because even the way I said it, the way I spoke, and then I found myself responding to myself while I was saying it aloud, like having a conversation with myself, which was really interesting, just affirming it. So when I would say something like, you know, I want to make a career as an artist this year, I found myself responding to myself saying, yes, you will. I try not to write on the negative. That was something I always struggled with keeping diaries. I couldn't stay consistent with it, and I think a big part of it was that I found it really draining because a lot of what was on my mind throughout my life was often negative, and I didn't want to write about the negative. It didn't feel good. And now I feel like that was my feeling system, my guiding system, telling me that don't focus on it, you know, go general with it. And I couldn't not think about it at that time. So writing about it just felt like it was, I don't know, exacerbating the feeling even more. Whereas now I'm in a place where I kind of have those tools to focus on the positive. And that's key, I think. It's reading it back for me, because I'm not just dumping thoughts. These are reassurances that I'm writing, that I actually want to hear, that I want to say to myself. In today's one, I mentioned, you know, this year I will make a career as an artist, you know, or I will start a career on YouTube, I will do all these things. And I found myself responding to them saying, yeah, you will. Yeah, you'll do that. Yeah, you'll do that. You will find this, you will do this, you will get that. And it was just so affirming. I think especially just saying it out loud. So I think I'm going to keep doing that. And it's funny because I think the only thing that stopped me from doing that before was listening to the sound of my own voice. Like, even now a part of me is still cringing, but it's so silly. It's so stupid when you think about it, because who cares? No one cares that much. Like, I know I'm kind of at the point now where, like, I've wanted to do certain things for a large part of my life, and I think the fear of people seeing them, or me getting embarrassed or ashamed, has always overpowered the passion to do it, even though the passion felt so strong. So yeah, I'd love to know if any of you have morning pages, rituals, or little techniques that you found that have really helped to kind of break this shyness or a lack of confidence. I just know for me, as I said, the morning is my sacred time. I know for some people it's at night. I had it a little bit last night. Me and a couple of friends booked a trip to Edinburgh, and I've never been, and I'm so excited to go. I'll definitely document that trip. So tomorrow I have my first meeting with the gallery that's going to be hosting my first solo show. It's very exciting, and it'll be happening next April or May. So I have to go in and talk to the gallery director about what I'm going to be doing, what I can do. So I kind of want to come in with more than I need. I have a good concept of how I want to respond to the space, like how I want to treat the space in relation to my work, but I am getting lots of new ideas that aren't exactly like how my practice was before, which I think is natural. I have a commitment to the gallery as well to kind of represent what they asked for, which was my work for my degree show, and I think my work will still be very similar to that aesthetic and that look, and I still have a lot that I want to play with it, but I know there's little diversions here and there. Like, for example, I have this really cool idea for a video piece, and it's really relevant to my theme, it's relevant to my work for my degree show, but it's a big jump. It can just be so frustrating when you have so many ideas, or if you are multidisciplinary and work between different mediums, because even looking back at my work throughout my degree, I was just doing up my website. I had to go back through all my work that I made second year and third year and fourth year. So 3 years of art making, and each year I did something so different. Like, it was all at its core the same premise, the same theme, the same concept that just kept evolving slightly to the next stage, which is what I want from my work. I couldn't ask for anything more. It's very hard to funnel that into a singular body of work. For example, I did a PLC course before joining. So instead of doing first year of this degree, I did a smaller, like a QQI course in art, and then I got advanced entry into second year. So for my equivalent of first year of this degree, I refused to do a self-portrait. I couldn't look at myself. It was this whole thing that I just didn't want to do myself ever. And I went really abstract. I was looking at things that were really scientific. I was doing a lot of printmaking. It was just very bizarre. And it was all connected with my family tree, my ancestry, but a very objective scientific view of it. And then second year of fine art, I started doing the self-portrait. I started looking at myself and putting myself into that narrative, so where I am in my family tree. And it was quite photographic, and again, printmaking for the most part. So I was creating these ritualistic costumes, these garments that I was referring to as relics, and then wearing them and photographing myself on film and all of this kind of stuff. And I was creating this almost, people were joking, it kind of looked like a cult, like I was forming a cult, and some things never change because that is still said about my work. But at literally in my last week of second year, I was like fuck it, I'm gonna paint. I have wanted to paint, and I've denied myself, and it really felt like that I have been denying myself the power to paint. I was too afraid, it felt too vulnerable, because painting is my medium. Drawing, painting, representing the figure, that is what I get the most life from, in a way. And it is, I know it's my primary medium, and I think I was really afraid. And I left it to the last week, and then I just pulled out a giant canvas and I drew my preliminary drawing, and it was all inspired by the photos I had taken of myself, and that totally translated, and it really felt magical. It felt right. And then so by the time I came into third year, I was only painting, but I kind of had to, I went into this really realistic, traditional oil painting style, and after semester one, like at that halfway mark through third year, I just had to break it. And I was having a really tough time. I was going back and forth with tutors. I found third year really difficult, but it very necessary. And for the second semester, I went really flat. I stopped trying to make it realistic, and the figures became almost, I was looking at a lot of like ancient Egyptian art and this flatness and this 2 dimension to the faces. And yes, something really magical happened, and that was when I started investigating the figure of Lilith. She kind of like just came to me. It was bizarre, and because I had been looking at like fallen angel tropes, and I couldn't resonate with the male trope. It had to be a female trope, and that was how I found Lilith as opposed to, let's say, Lucifer. Then I entered fourth year, and by the time I got to fourth year, I knew my character. I knew Lilith was a projection of myself. I understood the concept behind it, and I wrote my thesis on it. Like, I felt fully backed by my concept. I just had to make the work. And I started making these frames that were inspired by like religious iconography and ecclesiastical architecture that I'd seen while abroad in Spain for the summer, and it just took a life of its own. I still have like so much I want to do with that, and I kind of really found my own style that feels very unique to me. Like, I haven't seen this before. It feels new to me, and it feels like it represents me so authentically. Like, it just flowed. But now it's like, where do I go? You know, because I have like photographic influence. Like, I was looking back at that work that I had been making in second year with the garments and the photographs, and I'm like, because at that time in second year I'd really wanted to eventually make that into a video piece, me wearing my clothes and doing this big ritual and videoing it like a performance. And now I'm really interested in that again. I'm like, maybe I need to do that. And that's kind of connected to the idea that I have now, that I'm like, maybe this needs to come again in this kind of cyclical pattern, and then that will feed paintings. But you know, when you're under time constraint, it's so hard, and it's almost, I have too much going on in my head, and I'm like frozen now, and I'm like, it's hard to take action when you feel overwhelmed. But I suppose I just have to cop on, just have to go for it. That is also why I want to document this whole process, because I think I need a bit of a kick up the arse, like a bit of motivation to keep me going, and like documenting it week by week. So this channel for me is a way to, you know, it's like a milestone each week. Upload a video, show your progress, and it'll be something really interesting to look back on, because I plan to make art for the rest of my life. So I think it'd be really cool in 20 years time to go, where was I when I finished my degree? Right at the very beginning. What was I thinking? What was my practice? What was my process? So I really want to just document the journey and see how it looks in a few years time. I'm going to start like my research. Yeah, I'm still talking. I'm going to start my research on this book, which I got from my university library. I still have access to all the services from my university because I got a residency with the college, which is fab. So I still get to use the library, which was my main concern, and I hope to get back into the print room too, but that's for later videos. But yeah, it's this book, Lost Paradise, Symbolist Europe. I love the symbolists. So I think this will be a great help, and it's a really big book, so I just want to make a dent in that. So that'll be a good one to kind of get me started. And then there was also this painting that I saw when I was in Paris, and I think that's going to be quite influential. It might be one of my new favourite paintings. It was in my Paris video as well. It's amazing. It has like architectural like features in it, which is kind of reminiscent of what I'm doing anyway with my frames. So I think I'd like to try and rework that within my work. Like, I think that's going to be my leading inspiration. I hope there's other artists keeping up with these videos too, because I know even like through Instagram, for example, I love, like, there's a lot of artists that I follow just purely for the artist and not even that much for like their art. I just find it fascinating. I think we're in a really cool generation, and look, there's a lot of things that are wrong with the world at the moment and they need to be acknowledged, but I think it's a really cool age to be an artist. I think there's so many schools of thought happening at once, and I've found this insane resonance with other artists of my generation, like all kind of being on the same theme, you know, working with the same concepts. And it's so fascinating, like especially a lot of young women my age making art that's kind of mythologizing themselves or reimagining religion, recontextualizing it within our society. And I have so many thoughts on this. I did a lot of my like thesis work on this whole concept of self-mythology and the re-emergence of the spiritual and the religious. So I'll get into it properly in another video, but it's just exciting. And I think, yeah, I think that's the biggest motivation for me wanting to like document my practice. It even aligns really interesting again with astrology. You know, we're in the collapse of the age of Pisces, we're entering the age of Aquarius, and yet there's like this one last breath of the spiritual and the religious coming out from these artists, you know, these it's like the last dying breath of the age of Pisces is manifesting in the art and the music that we see. I think the spiritual and the religious is having its reprisal, and not that we want the old back, because we certainly don't. I'm not religious myself, but I'm fascinated by religion, and I want to reconceptualize it, recontextualize it, reimagine it, maybe understand better its possible original role that it was meant to play before it was contaminated and muddied. I don't think I'm alone in it, and that's what's so interesting. It really does feel like it's the dying breath of the age of Pisces. I gotta say, as a Pisces myself, it's an exciting time to be an artist.